welcome back to Hannity as we come to you live. We're in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, and wow. You know, Senator Marco Rubio's with us. How y'all doing, Charleston? You all right? You know, I've asked you a couple of times if you know, this gets tiring. You're doing 4, 5, 6, 7 cities a day, interviews in between, meetings in between that. I'm beginning to understand. This is kind of fun.
Absolutely. This is what drives you, because these are folks that came out of work early maybe, or are on their way to work, or have just had a long day, and they're able to be a part of this event. They're fired up about America's future. They know that they are going to play an important role starting tomorrow in changing away from the Obama agenda and getting this country back on the right track.
You know, let me ask one question. How many of you feel, on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can applaud if it's 10, I'm going to ask if it's 10, that you're worried about your country, the economy, the state of the world? Are you all worried about that? Right? Senator, everywhere I go, so many people are concerned. You got 95 million Americans out of the labor force, 50 million in poverty, 46 million on food stamps. You got a doubling of our debt. You've got median income down. Those are scary numbers.
They are, and that's why people know something's going wrong here. I mean, we've had ups and downs before in our history, but this feels different. This is an effort by Barack Obama to change America. He wants to make it more like the rest of the world. And if I say that too often, they criticize me, they repeat myself, but it's the truth. This is what's happening here. We've had presidents before that have been bad, but nothing like this. Yeah. This is a real effort to make America more like another country. We want to be America again.
You know, I did not disagree with your comment that I never disagreed. I actually believe this is by design. This is, you know, back in 2007 and 2008, I, as a conservative, tried to warn the country that I thought this man was more radical than people knew. And so I do believe it's by design. Some of your fellow candidates disagreed with you about it.
Well, it is by design. Obamacare was not an accident. Dodd-Frank was not an accident. The deal with Iran was not an accident. Apologizing for America is not an accident. Gutting our military is not an accident. These unconstitutional executive orders were not by accident. They know exactly everything. It's all part of a process. They want to make America more like another country. We're not going to let that happen. That's why 2016 is so important.
So, with all of these Americans, and I really, you know, every time you throw out 95 million, 50 million, 46 million, we forget these are our friends, our neighbors, our family, fellow Americans, really suffering, really struggling. How do we get those people back to work and out of poverty and off of food stamps? How do you get there?
First, you do what they're doing in South Carolina. You embrace free enterprise. You make America the easiest and the best place in the world to start a business and grow a business, because that's what creates jobs, not government. And second is you help people help themselves acquire the skills they need. Look, if you're on food stamps, if you're on public assistance, you should either be working or going to school so you can find a good paying job and not have to rely on the government anymore. And by the way, this is something I say all the time. We need more vocational training in America. We need to teach more of our kids to be welders, pipe fitters, plumbers, airplane mechanics, car technicians. These are good paying jobs. We stopped teaching people how to work with their hands. We have to change that.
It was a big part of my life. I spent 10 years in the construction business. I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things I think most people are concerned about, I see a lot of little kids here.
Yeah.
This president will accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined. How do you pay down $20 trillion in debt, and also when you have $125 trillion in unfunded liabilities?
Well, if you look at the driver of it, it's the way Social Security and Medicare are structured for my generation. Now, my mom is on Medicare and Social Security, so I obviously am against anything that's bad for her. Any changes that would be bad for her.
I'm older than you. I'm hoping you're not going to take my Social Security money away.
But the thing is, we don't want to take it away from anybody. We can leave it the way it is, or even improve it for people that are on it now or are about to retire. But it's going to have to work a little differently for me than it does for my parents and my grandparents, or how it worked for them. And what I mean by that is, instead of retiring at 67, maybe I have to retire at 68. That's not unreasonable to ask of me. 25 years away from retirement in exchange for bringing our debt under control, leaving it undisturbed for the people that are on it now, and saving it for future generations.
Would you means test and raise the eligibility age? Is that something for younger people?
Yeah, for people that are 25 years like me. You know, my kids are 50 years away from retirement.
Not for people 54 like me, right?
No, you'll be fine, Sean.
By the way, I look a lot younger, don't you think?
Right. No, I think the cutoff is probably 10 years away from retirement or less, and then everyone who's retired now. Why? Because I have 25 years to plan for that. My mom is 85. She can't go back to work. So you can't change it for the people that are on it now or are about to retire. And these changes are not unreasonable. To say to someone that if you've made a lot of money in your life, your Social Security check is not going to grow as fast as someone who made a little less, that's not an unreasonable change. We don't have a choice. These programs will not exist if we don't do something. And so I think we leave it exactly the way it is for people that are on it now or are about to retire. We make modest reforms for future generations. We save the programs. We bring our debt under control, and we can avoid this debt crisis that's coming.
All right, we're live. It's Hannity. We're in South Carolina. We're in beautiful Charleston. We'll continue. When we come back, we'll talk about ISIS, immigration, and much more as we continue on Hannity. And welcome back to Hannity as we come to you live. We're in Charleston, South Carolina. Y'all having a good time? Okay. What a great crowd. Senator, everybody in this city and town and country is worried about ISIS. It is modern evil in our time. You know, it's sad to see cities like Ramadi and Fallujah and Mosul and Tikrit in the hands of ISIS. George W. Bush warned about it. How do we defeat this evil in our time?
Well, first we have to recognize that they're not going to go away on their own. This is an apocalyptic group. I mean, they believe that their calling is to trigger an Armageddon, an apocalypse, because they want to see the 12th Imam, the Mahdi, return. And they believe, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's what they believe. People that believe this kind of stuff don't turn into stockbrokers. They have to be defeated. And that will require American leadership. Now, I think they primarily need to be confronted on the ground by Sunni Arabs themselves, a ground force made up of Saudis and Jordanians and Egyptians and Iraqis and Syrians. But we're going to have to increase our airstrikes. What we're doing now is not enough. Now, I was pleased to see that we finally went after them in that city in Libya where they've created their new headquarters. They have a radio station. Why is ISIS still on the air with their radio station? I mean, these things, we need to take this seriously. They are not, as the president called them, a bunch of people on the back of a pickup truck.
They're not the JV team
They're not a JV team. It is the most well-funded, serious, radical Islamic jihadist group in history, and they must be confronted and defeated.
Do we have to accept emotionally and be committed as a country that this could be a lifelong struggle as this caliphate advancement is real?
Well, first of all, they've said they're willing to invest hundreds of years in this endeavor. But let's be clear what they want. They want every single person in this room to either live under their black flag of ISIS or die. And this is a group that sells little girls off as brides, that burns people alive in cages. They're a very dangerous group. And by the way, this is a group of people that love death more than we love life. That's how dangerous they are.
Explain to me, if you can, the president's rationale as it relates to he's insisting on at least 10,000 Syrian refugees. Our National Director of Intelligence, our FBI Director, our Special Envoy appointed to defeat ISIS have all warned that ISIS will infiltrate the refugee population. Why would we gamble with the lives of the people in Charleston and the people of the country?
Because it is part of his ideology, and it doesn't make any sense to me. We've always been a country that's accepted refugees. This is not about a religious test. It's very simple. The world has changed. Our policies have to change to adapt to a new world. And here's the problem with the Syrian refugee situation. You allow 10,000 people in. 9,999 of them turn out to be fine. And one of them is an ISIS killer. You got a problem. That's why we have to be 100% sure, and you cannot be 100% sure from people coming from this part of the world.
One of your opponents was angry that we wouldn't hack into the San Bernardino, one of the San Bernardino terrorist phones.
Right.
I think Apple made a mistake. I think you put the security of your fellow Americans. There might be information about terror cells in that phone. What are your thoughts about Apple?
Apple is under a court order right now, and they're going to appeal it, but if they lose it, they have to follow the law. It's a complicated issue because encryption also protects people, and once you break it, then that back door exists and criminals can get a hold of that.
But there's no ambiguity. These were terrorists.
Absolutely. But the argument Apple's making is if you create a back door to encryption, then somebody else could find it and use it against you. This is a very novel issue. It's a new issue. Here's the bottom line. Apple's not above the law. If a court has ordered them to comply, they have to comply.
Well said. Immigration, I think, peace and prosperity historically drive elections. But I would argue in this election season, peace, prosperity, immigration, secure borders, migrants, immigrants are driving this election. And that has been a big issue in the campaign, and there's a lot of back and forth between you and the other candidates on it. Where are you now? Because we know where you were in 2008. You've explained to me many times that was not your plan that you wanted. You thought you tried to make a deal. It didn't work out. What would you do if you're president?
I want us to deal with this issue. Look, my parents are immigrants. My grandparents were immigrants. So no one can say I'm anti-immigrant. It's ridiculous. But we're a sovereign country. Sovereign countries have a right to pick who comes here, when they come here, and how they come here. And we're the most generous country in the world on immigration. So the American people say 1986, they legalized 3 million people. They never did the security. It turned into 11 or 12 million people. We're not doing anything until our border is secure. That means E-Verify, entry-exit tracking system to prevent visa overstays. We are going to finish the 700 miles of wall and fencing, and we're going to hire 20,000 new border agents instead of 20,000 new IRS agents, and sanctuary cities will lose their federal money.
All right, we're in Charleston, we're in South Carolina. It's Hannity. When we come back, well, let's just say a special guest and friend of Senator Rubio will join us right here on stage as we continue. And welcome back to beautiful Charleston, South Carolina. Y'all having a good time? We're with Senator Marco Rubio, and probably the biggest endorsement in the state is the governor of the great state of South Carolina, Governor Haley. It's great to see you again, Governor. How are you?
Thank you so much. Welcome to South Carolina.
It's a simple question, but it's also a profound one. I know everyone sought your endorsement. You gave it to Senator Rubio. Why?
You know, I'll tell you, after what we went through in 2015, I didn't think I would have more of a responsibility than I felt with this endorsement. Because first and foremost, I'm a mom, and I wanted to make sure that we had a country that was safe. I'm the proud wife of a military combat veteran, and I wanted to make sure we had a president that really understood what our military needs and how to have the backs of active duty and veterans. And I'm a governor that knows that the hardest part of my job is the federal government each and every day. And I wanted somebody that got that. But I wanted passion, I wanted a fighter, I wanted someone with integrity, and I wanted somebody with humility to know that they have to serve every person in the country, not just one of a political party.
Let me just get an audience reaction. Was this endorsement important to you?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Now, I've got to ask every candidate question that you know they don't want asked. And I've been through, I've interviewed you a bunch. So does that mean that Nikki Haley's, if you win the nomination, is on your short list to be vice president?
Well, I think she would be the first one to tell you she has her plate full, but here's my opinion. No matter who the nominee is, they're going to have her on that list. She's one of the most talented people in American politics and one of our brightest lights in the conservative movement.
Governor, the next logical question, if asked to serve in that capacity, you have to consider it.
Sean, my plate really is full. I mean, I have a daughter going off to college next year. I've got a son.
Notice she's ducking and dodging this question?
No, I have a son in middle school. I mean, I have more things I want to finish in South Carolina. You know, I have no doubt that there's lots of talent out there, but I love the people of South Carolina. I really, really do.
All right, fair enough. What do you expect? You know, it seemed that the poll numbers had solidified. In the last 72 hours, they kind of have been all over the place. I saw one internal poll from Georgia that had you down by 3 and in second place just before I came out here, which was interesting. Where do you see this race going? What are we going to see tomorrow night that maybe we expect or don't expect?
I'm not a political pundit, so I'm not going to try and be.
But you know your state.
But I will tell you that I do know my state, and I do know that there's strong, responsible people with a lot of strength and grace. The country saw that. They will all get out and vote tomorrow. They will all vote for the same things that I care about and that all of us care about in South Carolina. And I think they're all going to vote for Marco Rubio for president.
Pretty good endorsement. Senator Tim Scott is over here, too. You coming up, Senator? Come on up. How are you, Senator?
Very well, very well.
Let me ask you the same question that I asked Governor Haley. Why Marco?
It's pretty simple.
By the way, he has 80% approval rating in the state.
Thanks to you. Thanks to you. It was a hard choice at the beginning. I did 12 forums, one at a time. I was looking for one candidate that would be head and shoulders above the rest, or I would not have endorsed. 3 categories. Number 1, who would be commander-in-chief on the first day? A brother who's a colonel in the Air Force, very important to me that the commander-in-chief could take my brother's life and make a very important decision. The person with the most experience on foreign affairs is Marco Rubio. Intelligence Committee, Foreign Affairs. He understands the Middle East in a way that no other candidate has been able to articulate. Number 2, having grown up in a single-parent household, understanding poverty in an intimate way, who can revive the economy, not for the 1%, but for middle-income America? Marco's lived that story.
We have less than a minute, about 30 seconds, and I just want to give it to you, Senator. Yeah. Tomorrow's a big day. Your final push. There's a camera there. You can talk to the people, whichever is more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, not just here in South Carolina, but around the country. But tomorrow here in South Carolina, you have an important choice to make, and we've got good people running. But I want you to know that I'm running because I passionately believe that while we face real challenges, America's future is going to be greater than our history. But only if we get this election right. If we lose to the Democrats, we're going to pay a terrible price, and we're going to be the first Americans that leave their kids worse off than themselves. If you nominate me to be president, I am as conservative as anyone running for president. But I am a conservative that can unite our party, and I can grow it, and we will win, and we will turn America around, and the 21st century is going to be the greatest era in the history of the United States.
Senator Rubio, thank you. Governor, good to see you. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.